At that moment, I think what would have happened was if it was like anyone else, probably would have left. But she was just so patient, and she was never judging me once for any of those things. That made me, be able to judge myself for all the things that I was doing wrong.
I just wanted to start by asking you, how did you guys meet and how did you decide to get into business together?
Before we started business together, we actually worked together. So that was kind of like the stepping stone. But by the way, before we start, I always do this disclaimer at Night Owl Nation. I'm no expert by any means, right? I don't have a background in anything other than marketing. So everything that I say usually is just from my own experience. I question my own relationship, and I question my own. It's like, man, I should be doing better in these areas and things like that. So I just want to throw that out there. We're by no means Tom and Billy, or those power couples out there. I'm not really a personal development. I don't have a morning routine. I don't do all those things that the high performers do. So I just want to, preface this conversation by saying everything I'm saying.
Yeah, it's so interesting you say that because, you are a high performer, right? I mean, it's obvious by the numbers and where you are in life. And, there's just as many high performers that don't have a morning routine as do have a morning routine. But I appreciate you saying you're not an expert in this space, but you are an expert in your own life and relationship and how you got there. And I guess Wendy, we need to all have this disclaimer, right? This is the way we navigate through our relationship, our life together. So yeah, go ahead. Thank you for that, son.
So what happened was we worked in the same company in New York Film Academy. That's where we met, and we started dating there. And then when I left that, I joined another company as a partner, as a minority partner of that company. And at that point, we were looking for somebody to kind of do administrative work, and we were going to hire somebody. But at that time, that was also kind of a startup, and I was working crazy hours. So I was coming home at 10 p.m. And at that time, Gigi and I we weren't married, but living together. And, we had that typical couples tension. It's oh, son, you're working too much. And the thing is, I come home late, at 10 p.m. every day. And, we barely get to spend time. And she would complain about oh, you're working all the time. We don't spend any time together, blah, blah, blah. I was always thinking this. I wish you can see what I'm doing at work. So you see that I'm not there just slacking off and all the stress that I'm going through. Right. And maybe if she just saw that, maybe she wouldn't be so hard on me, when I come home or something like that. And so instead of working less hours, which is what I probably should have done, I just hired her. And she started working at this company, and that's kind of and actually it did kind of work, because when she started working there, she saw how stressed out I was, what I was doing and all that, and it actually did help our relationship a little bit. And yeah, we were there for 2 years, and then after that we left and started our own thing. The transition was smoother because we already worked together before we started our company. Yeah,
that's awesome. So instead of trying to explain how hot the fire is, you just brought her right into the fire and told her to jump in. Yeah, that's interesting. You mentioned a couple things, and I just, Wendy, here I go. I'm already off script, right? But you mentioned that the hours you work, and I think that's one of the things that couples, when they're working together, wonder, what does it actually take to build something significant in terms of hours from your perspective? How much time do you and Gigi spend working?
I mean, I personally don't think we work. I think we work about 40, 50 hours a week. So not too crazy. But in the beginning years, we did spend a lot. But in hindsight, I actually don't think it has anything to do with the hours, but how focused you are during those hours. I guess hours do matter in terms of, because right now when I see millennials or Gen Zs that are asking me for advice and they're talking about work-life balance, when I see them, I'm you are actually not working enough hours. Because I feel like in today's space, like working 40 hours a week is considered a lot. But like, for me, for most of my career, that was the norm, right? But so I do think that you should be spending like 40, 50 hours, which I believe is like the norm. But it's really less about the hours. Because for me, what happened was in the beginning years of Night Owl, because I was just like, oh, I can just do this at night. Oh, I can do this, when like, because I'm like, my mindset was like, okay, I need to be working all the time. Without those like drawing the boundaries, what actually ends up happening is, I don't know what this is called, but they say whatever you do, however long you think something's gonna take, it's always gonna take 30 minutes longer, right? And that's true whether it's 5 hours or 50 hours for the same task. If I say I'm gonna work from 9 to 5, I'm gonna make sure to get all my work done in 9 to 5. But if I say, oh, I have all the time, like I'm working all day, then it actually backfires on you because it'll take you all day, and then in between you're gonna check social media, you're gonna relax, and like, do you know what I mean? So, how many hours should you be working? I guess, in my opinion, 40 hours a week, and then you can actually do a lot in those 40 hours.
Do you guys have a structured time, like scheduled work blocks, both of you?
Not structure, but I guess it's not like we don't have an alarm or we don't set it in our calendar. But yeah, usually like, at the end of the day, like 6 or 7 o'clock, we'll go out, eat dinner, watch TV.
Do you guys have dedicated workspace? Each other have like a dedicated workspace?
We learned that early on. So even like when we were working in the office, we had a separate area.
I find that so important because Dave and I used to share a workspace, and that was difficult because we really needed our own space to be creative and have that separation as well.
Yeah. I also think in terms of the workload, like we do two like even at night and in my agency, we do two completely different type of work. So I think that like if we were both on every project, like working on every client project together, I don't know if that would have worked.
Right. Yeah.
That's interesting. And Sun, I shared something that really struck us when we were talking yesterday, and that is, and it surprised us too, and that was in the first couple years of your relationship of working together with Gigi, you used the word toxic, right? And I was just hoping maybe you could unpack not only what that means to you and Gigi, but how you overcame that and how you got to a little more settled space today.
Yeah, so in those beginning years, we almost separated it, like came really, really, really close to separating multiple times. And what happened was, I actually think a lot of it had to do with me. So I'm gonna give all the credit for like us sticking together to Gigi, because what happened was, like ego gets in the way, and for me, I went to this like resentment, kind of blaming Gigi for things that doesn't go right, and that kind of place, right? And it happens in business partnership too, but like I think if you're in a relationship, it's even easier to go there, because I don't know why. Maybe because you're closer or something like that. Gigi manages all the finances in Night Owl, and she manages all the books. She's basically the CFO. She does all the salaries, hiring, the firing, all of that. And for me, I don't really care about that. So I just care about doing the most amazing work, right? And I just care about like making people happy or whatever it is, right? Sometimes that goes in the finance goes in the way of that, right? Like, so for example, if I need to actually spend another 40 hours on this project and the client's not paying for it, but I know that it's necessary, then obviously somebody has to pay for it, and it's going to be us if the client's not paying for it. Those kind of things, right? And we were like losing money because of that. I actually didn't care about money. I didn't care about losing money. So I was actually blaming Gigi, because I was like, hey, we can't do that. Like, clients are going to hate us if we, invoice them for that, and like those kind of things. And like if you met me at that time, you probably think like, oh, Sun's such an asshole. Like it's because I had such an ego, and I don't know what Gigi would say, but like I went through this period where I had imposter syndrome. And then when I started my business got a little bit of success. Then I became really arrogant, and I like my ego creeped up. And then over time, I kept getting stomped by the universe. Like, like, son, is that what like you think you're right? Boom, like, and it kind of humbled me throughout the years. And one of the things that I think did for me was Gigi. Like one time, I was in the elevator, and I just like all the fires were off. Like one of the employees was quitting. The project that guy was working on was like the client was on my ass, just called me. Like this was like at like almost at midnight, called me, and like all this problem, like these projects are late, and just all this problem were going. Like we were barely making cash flow, and this client was supposed to pay but didn't pay. So all these like multiple fires going on, and I was just like, it was one of those moments like Gigi, I can't do this. And usually because Gigi is like the one that's communicating with the client, and like she's coming to me with all the problems. Like I'm a little bit like annoyed at her at the same time, and I just like sat in the middle of the elevator. And by the way, we had such a cash flow problem that at this time we rented our apartment on Airbnb to use that money to like pay for our business expenses, right? So we were sleeping in the office at this time. So that's why it was like a midnight in the office elevator. I just sat, and I'm like, I can't do this. Like this, you know what I mean? But the thing is, the other day I saw this TikTok video of this woman going like, I was about to make a carrot juice, but then I realized I have to do dishes, and I realized this and this, and all, like she had like all this overthinking like problem after that. But in order to do this, I have to clean the room, and in order to do that, that reminded me that I need to return the sneakers and all these things, right? And that's kind of how I felt, like all of these problems that are kind of in my head. And then I saw in that video what happened is her husband goes like, I'll make the carrot juice, and why don't you go take a nap, right? And that was kind of like, I can see how frustrating that can be, because like if somebody, when I'm thinking about all those things, and somebody goes like, relax, son, like don't worry about it, like that would actually piss me off even more, because I'm like, do you understand what I mean? Because like I can't just relax, it's not that easy, right? I think Gigi like reacted perfectly, because in those moments, because those kind of temper tantrums I had a lot, she would actually be like, okay, son, what can I help you with? Do you want me to send out the email for this person and do this? Like she'll actually organize all the things, and she'll actually like be the calm one, but not like dismissive of me, right, at the same time. And that was almost the best thing she could have done, because once she did that, I couldn't really, throw my tantrum anymore. At the same time, it was like she didn't dismiss me, so I didn't get angry about it or annoyed about it. And she was actually like really trying to solve the problems. So it also made me realize how baby I was being. So even though she saw that I was being all crazy and like being cocky, and my ego was creeping up and all of that, instead of judging me or telling me I was doing something wrong, she actually kind of accommodated some of it without really accommodating it. And what ends up happening is when she did that, I ended up seeing my own flaws. And at that moment, I think what would have happened was, if it was like anyone else, if I was in a relationship with anyone else, I think they would have been like, son, I had enough. Like I can't handle this anymore, and probably would have left or something like that. But she was just so patient, and she was never judging me once for any of those things. And because she wasn't judging me, and she was just kind of like, throwing a mirror at me, almost like I could see my own reflection, that made me, be able to judge myself for all the things that I was doing wrong.
Amazing. Wow. That brings everything full circle, right? It's like you're going through the struggle, and so you bring her into the work environment so that she can see the struggle, and then you go through the struggle together, and ultimately you came out the other side where you're at now. That's not to say you're not going to go through additional struggles, right? Like that's just part of life. But I think that, son, that so beautifully sums up one of the key reasons that couples working together can be so successful, right? Because you're not coming home and dumping on your spouse, and they have no idea what you're going through. and how to solve it, right? Or how to work together. And that's one of the things that we've noticed with couples working together is you have that synergy and that energy.